There was a feeling before kickoff that this match could be a turning point, one of those afternoons where Celtic might finally show some edge away from home and prove that the doubts were exaggerated. The early goal only amplified that sense. An away crowd silenced, a fast start, the kind of opening that should give any team confidence and control. But instead of calming things down and dictating the rhythm, what followed felt all too familiar. Celtic had the ball, yes, but possession without authority, possession without sharpness. Passes went astray, simple decisions became complicated, and players who should be setting the tone looked hesitant. It was not about effort because the running was there, the pressing was there in moments, but the quality and composure just never matched the situation the game demanded. When you look across the pitch, it is hard to escape the sense that this side is filled with players who are decent, sometimes even good, but rarely decisive. You see flashes that make you want to believe, a free kick that flies into the top corner, a clever touch in midfield, a run that briefly opens space, yet those moments disappear as quickly as they arrive. Players drift in and out of games far too easily, and at this level, especially away from home, that is fatal. Even figures who carry real pedigree and leadership within the squad were guilty of careless play, misplacing passes that should be routine, losing the ball under minimal pressure. That sloppiness does not just waste attacks, it invites the opposition forward and gives them belief. The frustrating part is that the context should have helped Celtic, coming off a midweek performance that showed resilience and organization. There was an opportunity to build momentum. Scoring early should have been the platform instead of slowing the game down and forcing Hearts to chase shadows. Celtic turned it into exactly the type of contest the home side wanted. Cheap fouls stopped any flow, free kicks were conceded in dangerous areas, and suddenly Hearts were feeding off territory and second balls rather than any sustained quality of their own. For a long spell, they did very little, yet Celtic kept handing them encouragement through naivety and poor decision-making. Away from home, this pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. There is a growing sense of anxiety whenever Celtic are pressed aggressively. Rather than trusting movement and short combinations to play through pressure, the instinct now seems to be to bypass the midfield altogether. Long balls forward, hopeful rather than planned, leaving attackers isolated and defenders under constant strain. It is jarring to watch because it is so far removed from what supporters associate with Celtic at their best. There was a time when pressure was an invitation, not a threat, when quick passes and brave positioning would pull opponents apart. Now the press arrives and panic follows. Possession surrendered far too easily. The midfield, which should be the engine room, struggled to impose itself. Instead of controlling tempo and dictating where the game was played, it was dragged into scrappy battles and silly fouls. That played directly into Hearts' hands. They wanted a stop-start contest. Physical duels, constant interruptions. Celtic obliged them again and again. What makes it harder to accept is that this was not even Hearts at full strength in that area of the pitch. There was no overwhelming quality on display from the opposition, just organization and intensity. Celtic should have been able to dominate that zone, but lacked the bravery and sharpness to do so. In the attacking third, the issues were just as clear. The ball rarely stuck when played forward. Movement was disjointed, with players occupying similar spaces rather than complementing each other. Wide areas offered little end product, and central options were often marked out of the game. There is a sense that opponents no longer fear what is coming next. Without that threat, defensive lines can step higher, compress the pitch, and make life even harder For a team already struggling to keep the ball under pressure, it becomes a vicious cycle, and Celtic seemed trapped in it during these away fixtures. Defensively, there were moments that summed up the lack of concentration that has crept in. One careless action can undo long spells of relative control, and when those mistakes happen, confidence visibly drains from the side. You could feel it in the stadium, the way momentum shifted after key incidents. Even when chances were limited, the sense was that Celtic were hanging on rather than asserting themselves. Goalkeeping interventions kept things level at crucial points, but relying on saves instead of structure and control is never a sustainable plan. Set pieces, once again, became a major talking point. Hearts clearly saw them as an opportunity, and Celtic struggled to deal with movement and organisation in the box. Players were drawn to the ball, losing track of runners, standing still, while opponents attacked space with purpose. These are basics, not moments of brilliance from the opposition, and that is what makes them so worrying. When standards slip in these areas, it speaks to a wider issue of focus and preparation rather than individual error alone. Even after changes were made, there was little sense of the game swinging decisively back in Celtic's favour. The options from the bench underlined concerns about depth and impact. In a match with such importance, the lack of variation and spark was obvious. It leaves supporters asking difficult questions about the balance of the squad and whether there's enough quality to change games when the initial plan falters. The atmosphere, the intensity, the significance of the occasion all demanded personality and authority, yet too often Celtic looked reactive instead of proactive. What lingers most is the contrast between home and away performances. At Celtic Park, the team can still look fluent, confident, capable of overwhelming opponents. Away from home, that identity fades alarmingly quickly. Whether it is mentality, tactical approach, or personnel, something is not translating once familiar surroundings are left behind. Until that gap is addressed, every away trip will carry the same unease, the same fear that control can slip away within minutes, even when the start suggests otherwise. As the match wore on, the deeper concern was not just about one afternoon, but about a trend that keeps repeating itself. Celtic concede control, and with it goes belief. When the equaliser arrived, it felt less like a shock and more like an inevitability born from pressure that had been allowed to build. The reaction was telling. Instead of a surge of authority, there was hesitation, sideways passes under no real threat, and a reluctance to take responsibility in tight areas. Confidence drained visibly, and the game drifted into a pattern where Hearts looked more comfortable, even without producing moments of real quality. That sense of inevitability is damaging because once it settles in, it becomes part of the identity rather than a temporary flaw. There were still flashes that reminded everyone of what this side can be. The free kick goal was pure technique and courage, a moment that cut through the chaos and lifted the tempo for a brief spell. It should have been a platform, a spark to ignite something more sustained. Yet even after that, the overall level did not rise. The ball's circulation remained slow, predictable, and too often inaccurate. Attacks broke down before they truly developed, and when opportunities did appear, they felt more accidental than constructed. It is hard to dominate matches when creativity depends on isolated moments rather than repeatable patterns of play. One of the most worrying aspects is how easily opponents read what Celtic are trying to do. Press high, force mistakes, win second balls, and turn the game scrappy. It is a simple plan, but it keeps working. Celtic rarely adjust within matches to counter it. There is little evidence of varied build-up, little rotation to pull markers out of position, and limited use of movement between the lines. Everything happens in front of the opposition, which makes defending straightforward. That lack of unpredictability means even average sides can look organized and comfortable, especially in their own stadium. The away form continues to loom large over the entire season. At home, familiarity brings confidence, sharper passing, and a willingness to take risks. Away from home, those same players seem burdened by caution. It raises uncomfortable questions about mentality. Is there a fear of making mistakes that leads to safe but ineffective choices? Is there a lack of leadership on the pitch when momentum turns? Or is it simply that the squad, as currently built, struggles to impose itself when conditions are hostile and space is limited? Whatever the reason, the contrast is stark and increasingly difficult to ignore. Personnel inevitably comes under scrutiny in moments like this. The starting 11 contains players who have delivered in the past, who have experience of big occasions, and who understand the demands of the club, yet performances suggest that some are either out of form or ill-suited to the current approach. The substitutes did little to change the rhythm, which only intensified the focus on squad depth when chasing control or trying to wrestle it back. There needs to be an option to alter the dynamic. Too often, the changes feel like reshuffles rather than solutions. Defensively, the shape held for long spells, but concentration wavered at crucial times. Set pieces in particular exposed a lack of communication and awareness. Opponents attacked space with conviction, while Celtic players appeared rooted, eyes fixed on the ball rather than the movement around them. These are moments that can be worked on, drilled, corrected, yet they keep resurfacing. It suggests that confidence, once shaken, affects even the most basic aspects of defending. When that happens, every delivery into the box becomes a source of anxiety. There was also a sense that the match itself lacked quality overall, which made Celtic's struggles even harder to accept. This was not a game defined by brilliance from the opposition. It was defined by intensity, disruption, and physical commitment. Hearts were comfortable playing that way, feeding off the crowd and the rhythm of stoppages. Celtic, on the other hand, seemed frustrated by it, unable to impose a different tempo. Instead of dragging the opposition into a technical contest, they were dragged into a battle they were never likely to win consistently. The goalkeeper's contribution cannot be overlooked, as key saves kept the scoreline manageable at vital moments. Without those interventions, the narrative could have been far harsher, but relying on individual rescue acts is not a sustainable model, especially away from home. Structure, control, and cohesion should reduce the need for last-ditch defending. When those elements are missing, pressure becomes constant and eventually something gives. Looking at the bigger picture, there's a sense that Celtic are caught between identities, no longer the possession-heavy side that suffocated teams through patience, but not fully comfortable as a more direct, transitional outfit either. That lack of clarity filters down to decision-making on the pitch. Players hesitate, unsure whether to recycle possession or go long, whether to press aggressively or hold shape. In those moments of uncertainty, opponents gain confidence and seize the initiative. Supporters are left wrestling with the same questions week after week. Why does control disappear so quickly away from home? Why do familiar problems resurface despite changes in approach? And how long can a team with title ambitions afford to keep learning the same lessons? There is still quality in this squad, still experience, still moments that hint at something better. But until those moments are connected by consistency and authority, away days will continue to feel like exercises in survival rather than statements of intent. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Explosive news is rippling through Scottish football as whispers emerge that Andrew Robertson, the talismanic left-back famed for his relentless runs and pinpoint crosses at Liverpool, is on the verge of a seismic move to Celtic. Sources close to the situation suggest that discussions have intensified in recent days, and while nothing has been officially confirmed, the possibility alone has sent shockwaves across the Premiership and beyond. Robertson's reputation as one of the finest defenders in world football needs no introduction. His tireless work rate, defensive solidity, and uncanny ability to influence play from the back have made him a favourite, not just in Anfield, but across Europe. To imagine him swapping the red of Liverpool for the iconic green and white hoops of Celtic is almost surreal. Yet, insiders hint that the hoops are preparing a bid designed to turn heads. The speculation comes amid a period of transition at Celtic. Managerial strategies are reportedly shifting, with an emphasis on blending youth and experience, and bringing in a figure of Robertson's stature would signal intent like few other signings could. Fans, meanwhile, are buzzing on social media, sharing both disbelief and excitement, with some already dreaming of a Scottish side featuring one of the Premier League's standout performers. Financial considerations naturally loom large. A move of this magnitude would represent a significant outlay for Celtic, yet the lure of a homegrown talent who has proven himself on football's biggest stages could justify the investment. Talks are said to be delicate, with Liverpool unlikely to let go without serious negotiation, and Robertson himself remains tight-lipped, fueling the frenzy further. Critics and pundits are divided. Some see the potential transfer as a masterstroke capable of elevating Celtic's defensive structure while injecting unparalleled energy down the left flank. Others question whether a Premier League stalwart can adapt to the Scottish game with its unique pace, pressure, and intensity. Regardless, the rumour is dominating conversations from Glasgow to Edinburgh, and it's clear that Celtic's ambition is being read in bold letters across every corner of the footballing world. As the saga unfolds, one thing is certain. The prospect of Andrew Robertson donning the green and white hoops is capturing imaginations, sparking debates, and promising a story that could redefine Scottish football's transfer landscape. Fans will be watching every development with bated breath, wondering if one of the Premier League's finest defenders might just be the latest headline in an already storied Celtic chapter. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.